Previously on Starhammer 42K. It has been a decade since the end of the Imperial retreat from the Celestial Galaxy. Grand Admiral Thrawn has concluded a years-long spanning project with an ambitious objective, leading a massive armada of 2,000 ships, made up of a joint Republic-Dominion ship's command. Thrawn plans to lead this expedition into the Milky Way to discover the reason behind the Imperial's retreat, and if possible, make peace with the Imperium. Failing this, they will do their damnedest to prevent it from ever being a threat again. Our player characters are a mixture of Republic, Dominion, Chiss, Mandalorian, Droid, Jedi, and Dominion Knight characters. I play John Rambo.
I'm coming to get you.
Koopa played a bunch of shiny new clone commandos called Easy Squad, including Niner.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Aider.
Then I'll take my fist and put my initials on your brain.
Gunny.
Ah! That's a war face! Now let me see your war face!
And Rookie.
I hate you guys.
And last but not least, Swords, who played the ex-Temple Guard Turkle.
Cease hostility!
The scenario was that we were surrounded by hordes of enemies advancing on our position, and we'd have to survive 3 waves of enemies, each one more difficult than the next. And he wasn't kidding. Immediately after, Grand Admiral Thrawn walked in, utterly impressed, and said we had passed our test with flying colors. Afterwards, high fives were exchanged, respect was earned, Rambo promised to buy everyone drinks, and the players signed off, content, laughing, and, well, nonetheless a little surprised, while Squash and I prepped next week's training session specifically for our droid characters. And believe me, that was just as nuts. In the years following the Imperial invasion, droids have taken on much grander importance, especially in incredibly dangerous combat scenarios. Recognizing the need for an expendable but also capable droid strike team to be deployed in such situations, the crew of the Tamayas has assembled the B team made up purely of droid characters. I played HK-74U, an HK assassin droid with the personality of Doc Holliday from Tombstone.
Statement. I'm your Huckleberry.
Prior to his assignment to the Starhammer expedition, Holliday was contracted by the Galactic Dominion to aid in the purging of first and second generation gene-stealer cults that have taken root in a number of Outer Rim worlds. While it is unknown how they got into the Celestial Galaxy, the running theory is that they stowed away aboard one of the many ships in the Imperial invasion fleet and dropped off on the nearest planet.
Observation. Somebody just walked over your grave.
Koopa played a customized B2 Super Battle Droid designated BTU-5, or Beatus.
Patriot Protocol engaged.
Now when I say customized, I mean Beatus was bought by the All-Star Galactic Football Federation before he could even see action, and was turned into a dancing mascot, complete with a t-shirt cannon. Only recently did the Dominion buy him back and restore his original programming, but his dance routines are still embedded into random fragmented subroutines, so expect him to start dancing out of nowhere, especially if and when we kill an opponent.
No one likes you!
Swords played as R2-E4, the astromech personal assistant to Turkle who idolizes R2-D2, and does everything he can to be like him, even if it means picking a fight with a tech marine during the Battle of Coruscant.
I shall burn that travesty.
And last but not least, the Magna Guard IG-117, also known as John Kynak, played by the narrator Squasher. A member of Groov's personal honor guard, Kynak spent the majority of his years fighting orc pockets in the Outer Rim, and has adopted his Kaleesh master's culture as his own, including giving himself a name. He still doesn't like meatbags much though.
Your weak flesh is no match for the unyielding might of steel.
Like in the last training mission, this battle would pit the droids against holographic, hard-light projections of enemies faced by the Republic and Dominion during the Imperial invasion. However, to save on time, only one wave of enemies was chosen, but this was perhaps one of the most dangerous modules available. They would face the retinue of the Lord Inquisitor.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Ahead, the Inquisitor and his retinue of Stormtroopers appeared and took up fighting positions, but they were not alone. The air crackled of ozone, a feeling of unnatural power filling the room, followed by the sudden crack of high-caliber sniper fire. Immediately, the droids took cover, forced to move to a heavy slab of Dura steel when thinner cover proved to be little more than a pincushion. Daring the incoming fire, Holiday ran for a nearby tower as E4 filled the area with smoke, the hunter-killer using a specially designed signet dart to reveal what was firing at them. Located in a pair of towers across the way were a pair of black-clad operatives, the most dangerous snipers in the Inquisition's arsenal, Vindicare assassins.
Death comes in shadows.
Across the way, E4 noticed a terminal plug-in that if hacked could be used to change the terms of the match, and Kynak leapt over a wall to draw the incoming fire of the snipers off the astromech. Unfortunately, Beatus chose that moment to suffer a critical subroutine failure, and suddenly started dancing out of nowhere. Thankfully, this proved to be a reliable distraction, more so from the utter bewilderment it caused, and Holiday took aim at one of the Vindicares. Unfortunately, the snipers of the official Assassinorum have been enhanced by brutal and secretive methods, and his disintegrator rifle blew a hole where his head should have been as he ducked. A deadly cat-and-mouse battle between the two snipers ensued, with them exchanging shots at each other just barely coming short of the mark.
One strike is all I need.
Observation. You may indeed, if you get lucky.
Meanwhile, the Stormtroopers split up into two fire teams to try and flank the remaining droids, one team suppressing Kynak as he drew his rocket pistol and fired back. E4, meanwhile, ran all the way back to Beatus and managed to override his dancing protocol, with the super battle droid sighting the tower where the other Vindicare lurked and took aim.
Watch those wrist rockets!
The rocket struck the tower and brought it down, the Vindicare leaping high into the air and coming down a somersault behind some cover, as the Stormtroopers came around and began suppressing the pair of droids. E4 suddenly had a moment of brilliance, and projected a holographic distraction across the way, causing the Stormtroopers to pull back and rain hailgun fire on the unsuspecting form. This bought Beatus enough time to come around and begin showering the squad with rocket and blaster fire, dropping one and forcing the rest into cover. Kynak took his chance then and readied his electrostaff, his hydraulic legs groaning with a sudden compression of raw power, as he leapt high into the air and crashed right into the middle of the Stormtroopers. Good as they were, the operatives proved no match for the Kaleesh killing machine.
Disengage, I repeat, disengage!
Typical human weakness.
The stranded Vindicare, hearing the death cries of the Tempestus Scions, rounded a corner with his bolt pistol and began pouring rounds into Kynak. Unfortunately for him, Beatus' football programming took hold, but not his dancing subroutine. Instead, he engaged his jet thrusters and roared across the battlefield, his heavy durasteel body tackling into the Vindicare and slamming him into the ruined tower. Broken and battered, the assassin attempted to leap away again, only for the battle droid to seize his leg in mid-flight and slam him to the ground, pulverizing him into fine chowder. Across the way, the Vindicare and Holiday ready for their final draw, spinning out of cover and firing at the same time. The Vindicare had readied his armor penetrator, the round tearing through the tower's cover into Holiday himself. However, the round proved to be overkill, and went straight through him, the wall behind him, and finally into the far side of the training room. Unfortunately for the assassin, Holiday's round proved to be far more lethal. Stay.
Poor soul. He was just too high-strung.
With the enemy reeling and occupied, E4 raced to the terminal and plugged himself in, slicing into the system and allowing himself the ability to change the terrain on command. It was then that the Inquisitor made his presence known, declaring that should he fall, an orbital strike is to be ordered on the location itself.
Leave no one alive to bear the seed of heresy.
In response, E4 immediately raised the walls around the Lord Inquisitor and trapped him in effectively a metal box.
Metal boxes. Forward, men!
There, the source of our unease was made clear as a Psyker of the Ordo Xeno stepped out of the shadows, energy crackling from his eyes and hands as he slowly stalked towards the startled astromech. Before he could unleash his power, though, the astromech caused the ground below him to rise into a high platform, allowing Beatus to take aim. Unfortunately, the rocket crashed into the Psyker's raised voice shield and petered off, the remaining Stormtroopers soon suppressing him, and their melta gunner hitting Kynak in the chest with a superheated blast. Before they could finish him off, however, Holiday struck the weapon with his disintegrator, and the antimatter energy caused the high-pressure weapon to explode, and vaporize the entire team plus most of the floor beneath them. E4 then disengaged from the terminal and pulled Konak into cover, initiating emergency repairs as Beatus fired up his thrusters, and roared up to the Psyker, hoping to plow him right off his perch. The Psyker, however, merely raised his hand and struck him with a powerful telekinetic wave, slamming the battle droid into the wall before cooking him alive with warp lightning.
Witness your doom!
Recovering, Konak drew his rocket pistol and fired, the explosives detonating against his void shields and weakening him, as E4 quickly plugged himself back into the terminal. There, he began raising and descending the tower at random, disorienting the Psyker as he fought for balance. Below, Konak began clawing his way up to the tower, poised to drive his electric staff through his face. Holiday, however, beat him to the punch.
I have the hot.
Statement.
Or Daisy if you do.
That was my kill.
Rebuttal.
I beg to differ, sir.
You damnable, abominable intelligences! You will burn in the fires of the Emperor's wrath!
Konak threw himself from the tower, his electro staff raised as the Inquisitor panically fired his bolt pistol at the fallen Magna Guard, the electro staff impaling him right into the ground.
Fatality.
With that, the mission was concluded. E4 rushed over to Beatus and managed to restore his systems, only to be dismayed when he reverted back to his dancing program and began a hilariously bad number on the melted charred floor. Eventually, his technician arrived to fetch him, pulling him away to do some very necessary reprogramming on him.
Put you back together again. I'll make you taller and not so fluffy.
And with that, the match was over, but the session had one more part to play. The holographic form of Grand Admiral Thrawn buzzed in the briefing room, followed by the flickering images of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, Kiana Mundi, Plo Koon, Shak Ti, and Ahsoka Tano. Present as well was the rest of the ship's strike force, or at least the ones that weren't in the training room. As the Timaeus would be among the first two ships to enter the Milky Way, as the probing element of the Starhammer expedition, it was decided we needed to be also the first on this new information. Thrawn described the discovery of a strange phenomena in the dark space between the Celestium and the Milky Way. There, the holographic projections of a battle took place, but in a rather ghostly form. Visual information is ultimately transferred by various frequencies of light itself, traveling for countless light years before eventually reaching an observer. What we were seeing here was the residual echo effect of something that had happened some thousands of years prior. Specifically, 10,000 years ago. Imperial ships, or what appeared to be Imperial with their skull iconography, did battle with a strange, almost animalistic swarm of spacefaring ships, or perhaps even animals. At the height of the engagement, the largest of the human ships detonated its core and exploded in a fiery explosion, but not in the cold fusion manner of Imperial warships. Instead, it was a hypermatter explosion, a technology that could have only come from the Celestium itself. 10,000 years prior, the Republic had been grouped by a fanatical cult of anti-alien zealots known as the Pious Dia. Their iconography, and the religious institutions dominating all form of social military structure, bore an uncanny resemblance to the much later Imperial invaders, with many wondering whether there was some kind of lost link between the two cultures. In that time, the Pious Dia launched many crusades into the far reaches of the galaxy, waging genocidal wars until the Jedi eventually brought them down. One of these crusades, it seems, has traveled outside of the galaxy, where they encountered an unknown biological spacefaring force that resembled the gathered reports of an alien race known as the Tyranids. Stranger it seems, the telemetry reveals that the explosion destroyed much of the Tyranid splinter force, and the surviving Pious Dia fled into the Milky Way itself, making all question if this was perhaps how the Imperials had learned of the Celestium Galaxy to begin with. Worse, though, was yet to come. Until now, it was unknown why the Imperials had retreated from the galaxy, but before us was our answer. A captured hololithic image from one of our deep space probes showed a massive, pulsing tear in the material space of the Milky Way, like a long, purple wound dissecting it in two. Somehow, the warp had invaded the Imperium and split it right down the middle. At its sight, one of the Jedi named Horus suddenly started screaming and slumped to the floor, blood pooling from his eyes and ears. Plo Koon, with his extensive knowledge of the warp, channeled the power of the Force into the crumpled Jedi, slowly purging its malignant presence even through the hologram. He confirmed to us that this was indeed the peril of the warp itself, and as Horus was carried away to the medical bay, Thrawn warned us all that we needed to prepare ourselves for the mission ahead. With the meeting concluded, Niter stated that this called for a new round of training, especially since the last few members of the ship's strike crew were yet to arrive. Right when he said this, two of them appeared right through the door.
Judgment time.
With that, the players signed off, and Koopa had a suggestion for the next training module.
I'm a simple man making his way through the galaxy. I am the law.